you'd mentioned that, you developed like an anxiety panic
Mm-hmm.
disorder, right? And we're seeing a therapist. I experienced something very similar to that in my mid 30s, where, and I think it was stress. I don't know, it was stress related, I think. And I don't know. It's not something I talk a lot about because
Yeah.
I don't want to. I think at first I was kind of embarrassed that that it happened to me because I am in business. Uh, I have this certain, I guess, the way people look at me out in the community, and that happened to me. Like I literally thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like we had just had our second kid. We were building a house. We were, I was working. It was crazy. And did the hobby help you with that?
I most definitely that I think, um, I went from being all out embracing nerd to allowing my life to be consumed by doing a lot of research and a lot of current event stuff for either debate research as a competitor in high school and college or as a coach. And it gave me that little bit of an escape that, again, you said your peak was around your second kid. Mine was 5 months after my third was born. And I very much have this like calm, cool demeanor. Like the me you hear talk in the boring Eeyore voice is the me all the time. And at work, I'm always somebody who's willing to raise my hand to do stuff. Right. I'm kind of a passive type A personality where it's like I'm willing to do stuff mostly because I don't want somebody else to screw it up and have to follow something dumb. And comics for me kind of did give me that, that escape of that like world to get lost in, that 15 minutes of me time to sit and read a couple of books and just kind of turn my mind off. And then where the hobby plus doing YouTube content helped me, when the world shut down because of the beginning of the pandemic, school became fake. That we saw one class a day for an hour and it was optional. We could not do things to lower kids' grades, only raise that, that they could only work their way up, which are all things that I agree with. But, I lost my window of interaction with people. That was, the only thing that became different from home. So when I'm sitting at home, doing the same thing all day with the same four people, uh, that I just randomly decided to take stuff that I was writing about and doing on the blog. And it's like, well, maybe I'll put out some videos and, interact with people that way. And, the rest kind of became this, the world that, we're both living in now. And at times, like I'm very open in talking about my mental health, and I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of it is because of the the teacher that you said you felt extra panic because of the pressure of like people have this image of me, but oh holy crap, now I'm broken. And we have this problem of stigmatizing any kind of mental illness. And I want to make sure the way that I carry myself for my students, like if I'm having a day where the meds aren't hitting right, I'll put something on Google Classroom. I'll post a note outside of my door, like if I'm having like if noise is triggering to me that day. And then I'll have kids who can, if they're afraid to say something to other people, they can look at me and be like, it's a day. And it becomes easier to kind of be this model of how I think we should talk about mental illness. That you don't have to talk about what your issues are if you don't want to, but it shouldn't be like the first time my principal heard how open I was with my diagnosis with my students, she's like, why are you doing that? That's personal. No, because if they know they can see the functioning me, and they can see the days where I'm struggling. Like, I can be the walking, talking model to, almost 200 kids a day of, it's okay not to be okay, or here's how you can be, here's where you can power through a bad day to then get to your time of unplugging. So the hobby, helped a lot from getting the world to escape in, but then the community has helped a lot, because if there are days where I just go dark on not just YouTube, but any type of social media, people be like, hey man, are you okay? And it's like, yep, having a couple of days. So it's been nice to see that this is not just a community of people who are engaged in liking the same content, but it's truly a community of care, because we all now know people who in our day-to-day physical relationships we can turn to and talk to about stuff, but then we also now know that we've got that same cluster of people who can be our support networks online. And I think that that's something that I don't think we predicted the internet to be a productive thing in providing, when we just thought it would be machines for video games and porn. That, sure, those things happen, but it's nice to have those connections. That the hobby bringing me to a broader community is something that has kind of helped make the bad days not so awful.
And I appreciate you talking about it, because, like I said, it really was for me, because I always kind of was one of those people. I bounced off the wall all the time. I was happy when I was bouncing off the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and most productive. And then all of a sudden, I just started having these feeling, like this dread and this panic. And then one day, like, I'm not joking, like, I thought I was having a heart attack. Like, I had, Amy took me to the hospital and everything. And, I ended up coming back, and I really was, like, I was embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
But what I've realized since then, and I think you articulated it very well, it's not something to be embarrassed by. We all deal with, probably almost everybody probably deals with some form of mental health issue
Mm-hmm.
in day to day, and it's nothing to be embarrassed by. It's just part of life. We do live in a high stress world. There's a lot of stuff going on. And it's interesting you made that point, because I always thought the internet was one of those things, especially social media, that maybe created the stress.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is almost kind of cathartic to, like, sit here and talk to you about it,
Yeah.
because, and I talk to my kids. My wife's a teacher, and she deals with a lot of that stuff at school. And I'm very open with my kids about the stuff I deal with day to day. Hey, here's how I deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Take a minute. But books, comic books and books in general, like, I've always read, but I read more now than I ever had, because it is that escape for me. It, like you said, I can turn the world off for 15, 20 minutes and escape into this fantasy world,
Yep.
that I love. And it helps calm me down. If I'm having a bad day at work, I'll grab a book and tell my staff, hey, I need 15, and I'll
Yep.
go in and I'll read a book, I'll read a comic book. So yeah, no, I appreciate you being so open about it, because it
Yeah.
is something I think most people deal with. And I think a lot of people are ashamed to talk about, but it's
Yeah.
nothing to be embarrassed about.
Yeah, because I think, like you said, now that the more that we have get understandings of how the brain works, right? You know, as science advances, we see diagnoses of all kinds of diseases, disorders, things like that go up. That's inevitable, but that's a good thing, because now you don't necessarily have to feel like, the crisis was very much, I'm, 34, 35 years old at this point in time. Why the hell did this pop up now? Like, have I been living a lie? Like, I think
Right.
those moments of like crisis and self-doubt at the beginning, I think, are healthy to a degree, because you're like, nope, this is who I am now. Sometimes the light switch turns on and it works. Sometimes it turns on and it flickers. It's inevitable. You have to find those survival and coping strategies. And I think the more you find what works for you, the better version of a you become, and that allows you to work with or for or help whomever in any capacity.